Naomi had a relative on her husband's side, a man of standing from the clan of Elimelech, whose name was Boaz. And Ruth the Moabite said to Naomi, "Let me go to the fields and pick up the leftover grains behind anyone in whose eyes I find favor." Now, other Bibles uses the word "in whose eyes I find kindness." Others say "in whose eyes I find grace." Naomi said to her, "Go ahead, my daughter." So she went out, entered a field, and began to glean behind the harvesters. As it turned out, she was working in a field belonging to Boaz, who was from the clan of Elimelech. Just then Boaz arrived from Bethlehem and greeted the harvesters. "The Lord be with you." "The Lord bless you," they answered. Boaz asked the overseer of his harvesters, "Who does that young woman belong to?" Let's get up to that point for now. Now, after returning back to Bethlehem, I've said we are introduced to another character by the name of Boaz, who is a relative of Naomi's late husband. We are told he is a man of standing. Other version says he was a wealthy man. He was a man who was doing well. And today we're going to look at this subject, God's providential care. God, providential care. I remember telling you that the book of Ruth is a picture of what was to come many years later. And Boaz is a shadow of Jesus, the shadow or a picture of Christ, while Ruth is a shadow of the church. But for the sake of this service, we won't go to those details. God's providential care. Providence. What is providence? Providence is divine guidance and care. Divine guidance and care. That's what we call providence. From this story, we realize that God had preserved his people and prospered them even during this season of famine. And a good example is Boaz. Because now that Naomi and Ruth are returning back, after they heard that God had remembered his people, you see, the Bible does not tell us in any way that people died or people perished out of this famine. Because God is able to preserve his people. And we see a man who prospered probably during that season of famine. This man by the name of Boaz. He is a prosperous man. And they are just coming out of a season of lack, out of a season of famine. But God, in his wisdom and his power, has maintained and preserved them during the time of famine. And last week we saw people getting amazed as Naomi and Ruth are coming back, meaning that there are people who remained and they never died. There are people who never left Bethlehem during this season. They remained there and they never died. These are the people who welcomed Naomi and Ruth back. But now they are back in Bethlehem, but life must go on. Life must go on. Though they have come from a disaster, from loss and death, life had to go on. And therefore, Ruth arose and went out to look for food. Ruth is a very industrious woman. Ni mtu, kuna hii jina naitusikia siku hizi. Ni mtu wa kujituma. Si mtu wa kukunja mikono na kukaa hapo. Ni mtu ambaye ako huko nje, because baraka ziko huko, haziko kwa nyumba, ziko huko nje. Unapoenda kufanya kazi, that's where you find favor, as I'm going to be sharing as we continue. She went out. She took a step. Because faith has to be accompanied by making steps. She arose, she left the house, and went out there. And as you read, she didn't know where to. She says, wherever I find favor, let me go and pick the leftovers of grain behind anyone in whose eyes I find favor. In whose eyes I find favor. She was not going to a specific field. She was going out there and begin to glean in the field of a person in whose eyes she would find favor. And I've said here that after taking that step, God ordered her steps to the field owned by Boaz. And this was not a coincidence. We see divine guidance here. God guiding her steps. The Bible says in the book of Psalm that the steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord. And friends, let us not be taking everything as a coincidence. No. I believe where you are, God ordered your steps there. There must have been many other fields in Bethlehem. But the invisible hand of God was guiding her. This is what we call divine providence. God guiding you to some specific field, not every other field. A specific person, a specific church, a specific individual. Because the hand of God, which is invisible, is behind most of the things we see. Is behind most of the things we see. And if you look back now where you are, and go back several years ago, you will see the hand of God at work. You will see the hand of God at work. Let us not be people who believe in luck. Ni bahati. Hakuna bahati. Hakuna kuangukia. Ni mkono wa Mungu ambao ulikuwa umekushika. The invisible hand of God has been guiding you throughout. Because I've said there must have been other fields. I like the King James says she happened to find herself in the field of Boaz. Not a coincidence. This was the hand of God at work. And I believe even now, friends, God is guiding you. The hand of God, the invisible hand of God is at work. Ruth, church, a picture of the church. The invisible hand of God is at work. You may not see it, but God is at work. That's where we've reached. Let's see verse 4. Just then Boaz arrived from Bethlehem and greeted the harvesters. This is a man that we need to emulate. He's a man who has a good relationship with his workers. Hope you see that. The Lord be with you. And they say to him, the Lord bless you. For those of us who have employees, this is a man we need to emulate. A man who has a good relationship with those that are serving him. Now we see something else here. Let's continue from verse 5. Boaz asked the overseer of his harvesters, who does that young woman belong to? The overseer replied, she is the Moabite who came back from Moab with Naomi. She said, please let me glean and gather among the sheaves behind the harvesters. She came into the field and has remained here from morning till now, except for a short rest in the shelter. Now here we are introduced to Ruth's diligence. Ruth found favor or grace or kindness in the eyes of the overseer and even of Boaz due to her diligence. You see, friends, someone is watching us even as we work. In whatever we do, whether it's in the Lord's field or even wherever we work, where we do business, where we are employed, someone is watching us. Number one, God is watching us. This overseer had been watching Ruth as she worked. And God is watching us. And not just God, even people are watching us. And I want to ask you, how diligent are you in whatever you do? Because, leave alone God, even people can tell a person who is committed to whatever they do, or a person who is there for the sake of it. Of course, God can see. But even people can tell. Those of you that are employed, your boss can tell how committed you are to whatever you are doing. And even your colleagues can tell. They are watching. They are watching the level of your commitment to whatever you are doing. And Christians, the Bible tells us whatever our hands find to do, we must do it with all our hearts, all our strength. It's a shame if Christians are the ones who be found lazy at work, non-committal. We should be the first people there in the morning and should leave the last, committed to what we are doing. Because the Bible says whatever we do it as unto the Lord. This was a diligent woman, a hard-working woman, Ruth. And the overseer noticed, and Boaz could notice, that this is not just another ordinary poor person. This is a diligent woman. You see, there was in the book of Leviticus, I wish to read Leviticus chapter 19. The book of Leviticus chapter 19 from verse 9. In one of the rules of Moses, the Bible says, when you reap the harvest of your land, do not reap to the very edge of your field, or gather the gleanings of your harvest. Do not go do not go over your vineyard a second time, or pick up the grapes that have fallen. Leave them for the poor and the foreigner. I am the Lord, your God. So as these people are harvesting, there was a law that has been established that you don't harvest everything. Leave some for the poor and for the foreigner. And this is what Ruth is doing. But she is doing it diligently. She is gleaning from the leftovers diligently. And that is what the point I want you to catch. She was diligent in what she was doing. Hardworking, busy, committed to that. And that got the attention of the overseer or the supervisor and even of Boaz. Let's continue. Verse 8. So Boaz said to Ruth, my daughter, listen to me. Do not go and glean in another field, and don't go away from here. Stay here with the women who work for me. Watch the field where the men are harvesting, and follow along after the women. I have told the men not to lay a hand on you. And whenever you are thirsty, go and get a drink from the water jars the men have filled. Now Ruth is enjoying favor. But for her to continue enjoying this, there was a condition. For Ruth to continue enjoying this favor, she had to remain in the field of Boaz. She is told, don't go and glean in another field. Remain here. Remain here. And you are going to enjoy the favor that you are enjoying. And I want to say that we too have to remain in the Lord. No matter the season that we are in, if we are going to continue enjoying His favor, His grace, we must purpose to remain. She is told, for you to enjoy this, remain in my field. Remain in my field. Verse 10. At this, she bowed down with her face to the ground. She asked him, Why have I found such favor in your eyes that you notice me, a foreigner? Boaz replied, I have been told about what you have done for your mother-in-law since the death of your husband. Friends, if this favor is not free, I have been told, I have heard about your commitment to your mother-in-law, even after the death of her husband. How you left your father and mother and your homeland and came to live with the people you did not know before. May the Lord repay you for what you have done. May you be richly rewarded by the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come to take refuge. 13. May I continue to find favor in your eyes, my Lord, she said. You have put me at ease by speaking kindly to your servant, though I do not have the standing of one of your servants. 14. At mealtime, Boaz said to her, Come over here. She continues to enjoy favor. And have some bread and dip. Boaz gave orders to his men. Let her gather among the sheaves. Let her gather among the sheaves, and do not reprimand her. even pull out some stalks for her from the bundle. God giving us what we don't deserve. God opening doors that we are not qualified to go through. And I pray this afternoon that you may enjoy the favor of God. That God will open doors, give you opportunities that you really don't qualify. Just because of your relationship with Him, may you obtain that favor this afternoon. Favor is God giving us what we don't deserve and what we are not qualified. And this is a preserve of Ruth, the church, the people of God. She realizes this, that she is a Moabite. She does not deserve all this favor, all this kindness, all this grace. And you and I can testify that what God has done for us, we don't qualify, we don't deserve it. It's just favor from God. But as I conclude, this favor can be lost. She is told, let me take you back, remain in this field. Do not go and glean from another man's field. Remain here, and these favors will be yours. When we are diligent, friends, wakati tumejitolea, we do our best where we are. Do your best where you are. Whether you are in business, whether you are employed, whether you are a preacher, do your best, because God is watching and people too are watching. And people can tell how serious you are, how committed you are. These overseers could see how committed Ruth was. Do good to others. Boaz said, I have heard reports of how you've been kind to your mother-in-law. Kwa hivyo favor haikuji tu. There are some contributing factors here. She is diligent. She has a good report. She has a good report among the people, because people had been talking about her. No wonder she obtained favor. And so as I conclude, when you are diligent, when you work hard, when you are determined, when you persevere, and when you are committed to your cause, you attract favor. You attract favor with God and with men. And so my challenge to you, my brother and sister, is that be committed to what you are doing. Do your best. Be industrious. Be diligent. Be the best you can. And remember, whatever you do, do it as unto the Lord. And that way, you attract favor. You attract favor. Favor haikupati tu. Ruth did not find favor doing nothing. She left the house, went out there, and there God ordered and God planned. Providentially, God guided her to the right field, to the right man. And eventually, as we're going to see as we continue, she eventually married this man, Boaz. God's providential care. The hand of God, the invisible hand of God, was guiding her.